I created this video. I decided to record this video as a sort of a note to myself. Why I even started, talking about stuff on the internet and putting myself out there and potentially risking a lawsuit or a visit from Men in Black. Yeah. I started making these videos, and starting speaking out publicly or sort of publicly, because I want to, however this thing will play out, and I'm sure that we are gonna win, but however this thing will play out, even in victory or defeat, I want it to be known. If someone ever finds this, I don't care if one person will see this. I don't care if I'll be the only one seeing this. I don't really care about that. If this video is gonna get like 5 views or 0 views or 1 view, I don't care. If it got 1 million views and every single person would dislike it, I don't care. It doesn't faze me a bit. I want to let it be known that I stood on the right side of history. I stood for the real good. I spoke for it, I stood for it, and hopefully I'll have a chance to fight for it. Now there are many people in history of the world that were convinced that their opinion is the right one. How do you know that you are standing on the right side of history? Well, one clue would be that if I ever said what I really think in public, in many countries it's actually a punishable offense. Like, get this, there are things you cannot say. There are many things you cannot question. There are many things that the establishment would rather be if you couldn't even think about those things. Why? Now there are always some kind of, like copes and coping around the fact, about certain events that happened in history and why some people can be criticized while others can't. Now, in Britain, it's gotten to the point where you cannot even criticize violent crime that happens here if it's done by a certain demographic. Why is that? Is it because the leaders? I've seen an idea that got sort of attraction, and that's that British leaders are in the pocket of the Saudis. That's funny. That British leaders are in the pockets of the Saudis, and that they were paid because of I don't know, oil dealings and stuff like that. That it's incredible. That's what I've seen, and it's pretty funny. Because that's not even remotely close to reality. What's really close to what really is happening, what really is the reality, why you cannot in Britain speak against someone who committed a violent crime if they're of certain demographics. Well, the reason why it's happening is something you cannot even say on the YouTube, because you would get immediately banned. The video would get taken down, you would get a strike, you would get demonetized, you would get whatever. You would get your partnerships cancelled, you would be ostracized, you would be kicked out of participating in society. You cannot even say why it's happening. You cannot say what is happening, and you cannot say why it's happening. And that way, you know that it's actually the truth. You can say that Stalin was the greatest man who ever lived. You can say that. Hypothetically, I'm not saying that. Not at all. hypothetically, you could say that Stalin was the greatest man who ever lived. Would your video get taken down? Would your video get taken down from YouTube? Would you get thrown in jail in European countries? In France, for example, would you get thrown in jail? No, you wouldn't. There are countries in which you can just take the hammer and sickle on as a banner and just go outside and wave it, and while proclaiming and shouting on top of your lungs that communism is the greatest invention of the man. You could do that. Would you be penalized for that? I mean, maybe somewhere, sort of, maybe. I don't see where, maybe in Poland. I'm not even really sure. But no, generally not. You could say that the Holodomor, right? Or that the gulags never happened. You could say all those things. You could question how many people Mao killed. You could say that Mao never killed anyone. Or it was just a great misunderstanding, misfortune. Not, like he tried, he really tried, the great leap forward and everything. He really tried and, just didn't work out. You can say that. No one will bat an eye. Again, for reference, I'm not saying these things. I do not believe them. And those are not my opinions at all. Quite the opposite, actually. No one would bat an eye. But there are certain things you cannot say. In Britain, it gotten to the extreme where you cannot even say if someone violates somebody. God forbid your part of your family member, your daughter, whoever gets violated, and you say, oh, this is the guy who did it. If the guy is of certain demographic, you are going to jail. You will be harassed by the police. And it's not because your leaders are paid for by the Saudis. That's not that. It never was that. It's because there is an interest of a certain group of people to, let's just say, change Britain and Europe and the US. And they're working overtime to achieve that. Change Britain, but for our Great Britain example, change Britain fundamentally, culturally, change it. I'm not going to say the words I want to say because it would be immediately taken down. So please understand that I am trying to say what I sort of think, right? Sort of say what I think. But at the same time, I'm trying to, jump through the hoops to not get taken down, not get banned, not get sort of repressed or however we want to call it by YouTube. But that's all I can say. If you know, you know, and I think it should be quite obvious what I mean. They are trying to change Britain, and if you are trying to speak against that change, to stand against that change, you will be prosecuted. Now, why is that happening? Why? If you say you will be prosecuted again, that's how you know that you're standing on the right side of history. It's that easy. As soon as you cannot criticize something, as soon as you cannot question whether someone who is in mainstream seen as a bad person, as a villain, as an embodiment of evil or whatever, if you cannot question that, if you cannot try to counter those arguments, and I'm not just saying that you will be taken down, banned. Oh, I just tweeted. I don't know. It's 2018, and I tweeted something on Twitter in favor of Trump, and I was banned. No, that's not a real consequence. Therefore, that must mean that he's the real opposition. He's not. That's not a real consequence. It's annoying, sure. It helps shape public opinion and narrative and discussions and arguments the way someone is interested in and the way someone wants it to be shaped, but that's not a real consequence. When there's a direct real life threat, real life consequence, when there are state enforcers knocking on your door for something you said, for something you expressed, or for the book you wrote, or for your book you bought, that's how you know that the state really fears that. That's how you know that the establishment really has a problem with that. As soon as you're criticized for expressing your thoughts without any kind of violence whatsoever, those thoughts may not be violent at all. At all. But it will still be said that what you said or what you think is propagating violence, even though there was no violence to begin with. They will just sort of, circumvent or just extrapolate or just take your thought and say, well, that might mean this, that might mean this, that might mean this, and that might mean that, and so therefore your thought is violent because we just, jumped through 4 different ideas, changed your thought completely, twisted your words, made some things up, omitted some other things, and look, the result is that your thought could lead to violence. And so therefore you need to be prosecuted. And this is how it's going on in Europe and in the US. And do you think that's just that's just some kind of coincidence? Do you think that it's not something that's done deliberately? Do you think that all the world leaders are just stupid and they just don't know what they're doing? Don't you really think there's some bigger or greater agenda in play? Do you really think that, Keir Starmer is just, or Starmer or whatever his name is just incompetent? Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that? I'm asking sincerely, do you really believe that? Because I don't think that's even believable thought. I think, or premise, I think that that's just shielding yourself from the very uncomfortable realization that there's something bigger at play. That's all there is. You're just a coward. And I don't mean this. I don't mean to be just disrespectful for the sake of being disrespectful, but I'm trying to move the conversation away from all the euphemisms and away from all the being nice. Just let's be nice to each other. None of that. If you really think that it's just, or you're hiding behind the notion that it's just incompetence, you are a coward. You are being a coward who's lying to himself. Essentially, you will never solve anything in life by being a coward who's lying to himself. You will never achieve anything. If anything, you will achieve the destruction of your country, your family, your culture. You're sticking your head in the sand. It's not constructive. It's not solving anything. So you need to face the truth. Be a man, face the truth. If there's by any chance a woman watching this, I'm not don't be a man. But you should also face the truth. There is a bigger picture that the so-called elites have, and the sooner you will realize it, the better. As I mentioned in the previous video, the MAGA people, or part of the MAGA people, are finally waking up. Now there are some people that decided to give up. Trump he's just we lost all hope. Trump was the one, and he's now sold out, and he's bought and paid for, and it's over, like we cannot do anything. That's a cock mentality. And you deserve what you're getting if that's what you really believe. If that's not just some kind of a moment of weakness, you just say this to yourself and then you just, buckle up and you just go again. You just stand up and, try again. If that's really what you think. Oh, the 80-year-old boomer is not the savior, is not the answer that we were hoping for, then you're lost. And honestly, no one wants to have a brother in arms fighting by his side who's like that, who's like you, that you really think this, that you really lost all hope when Trump finally went mask off and proved to at least a big portion of you that he is not acting in your best interest. So these are my thoughts. This is the video that I wanted to make. I don't yet have any soundproofing in my room, so there might be a small echo, but it is what it is. This is the video I needed to make for myself. Again, I don't care who will watch it, who won't watch it. I don't care about any of that. I just needed this video for myself, and so I can, watch it back when in doubt, because it's normal to be in doubt. It's normal to be afraid even. Those are normal human emotions, but you need to understand that our civilization, our great civilization, European civilization, even America, we didn't get to the point of being at one time the leaders, and even still leaders of the civilized world, if you can say, even still, we didn't get to this point by cowering in fear. We also didn't get to this point, and our ancestors didn't get to this point, to point where they built things. Well, they built the nations, where they built the civilizations. They didn't build it by not being or without feeling any fear, any kind of fear. They felt the things we feel now, the same things. They felt the fear. They felt the hopelessness at times, as we all do. But the most important thing is how you react to what you're feeling. The most important thing is how you can take a stand. What you can do in spite of feelings, those emotions. Our ancestors felt the exact same things when they built the civilization as we do now, when that civilization is being destroyed. And there are cycles to this. And this is not the first time this is happening in history, not at all. Every time our ancestors, during every waking day of their lives, they felt the uncertainty. Oh, I can't speak. They felt the uncertainty. They felt the fear. Hopelessness, disparity, all those things. But they kept going. They kept building. They kept innovating. They kept fighting. And that's what I want to remind myself. Of that I need to keep fighting. And hopefully, if you're watching this, you will be reminded of that as well. Thanks for your attention.